My parents gave my inheritance to my cousin, so I exposed a secret they never wanted anyone to know. My grandparents always told me that when they passed away, they had something saved for my future. Not a huge fortune, just money they had been putting aside for years to help me with college, a house, or whatever I needed to start my life. They told me this when I was a kid, and again when I turned 16, so I always believed it was there. I never asked about it. I never depended on it, but it felt good, knowing that my grandparents believed in me enough to plan for my future. My cousin, on the other hand, was the complete opposite of me. He was older than me by 3 years. He dropped out of college twice, couldn't keep a job, always asking people for money, and somehow, my parents always defended him. They would say things like, he just needs more time. Whoa. He's going through a tough phase. Even when everyone else in the family was tired of his excuses. Fast forward to last year. My grandfather passed away first. It was hard on everyone, especially my grandmother. A few months later, she passed away too. After the funeral, the whole family met at my parents' house to talk about the will. I wasn't really thinking about money. I just wanted to know how everything would be handled. But when the lawyer started reading the document, something didn't make sense. There was money listed, savings my grandparents had kept for years. And then the lawyer said something that made my stomach drop. The money that was supposed to go to me was already gone. I thought I heard wrong, so I asked him to repeat it. He checked the papers again and said the same thing. The account had been emptied months before my grandparents passed away, and the money had been transferred to my parents. I looked at my mom. She wouldn't even look at me. That's when my dad spoke. He said they used the money to help my cousin. Apparently, my cousin had gotten into debt, a lot of debt, and he told everyone he would lose his apartment if he didn't pay it. So my parents decided to help him with my inheritance. Just like that. No one asked me. No one told my grandparents. They just took the money and gave it to him. The room went quiet. Even my aunt looked shocked. I asked my parents why they thought that was okay. My mom said, he needed it more than you. Those exact words. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just nodded like I understood. But inside, I felt completely betrayed. Not because of the money, but because they made that decision without even thinking about me. Later that night, I went home and started looking through old messages. I remembered something my grandmother told me once. She said if anything ever happened with the money, I should talk to the lawyer directly. At the time, I didn't understand why she said that, but now it made sense. So the next morning, I called the lawyer myself. I asked him one simple question. Did my grandparents know the money was taken? There was a long pause on the phone. Then he said no, they didn't. In fact, according to the documents, that account wasn't supposed to be touched without their permission, which meant my parents weren't allowed to use it at all. I felt my heart start racing, because that meant what they did wasn't just unfair. It might have been illegal. The lawyer told me if I wanted, he could check the records again and see exactly what happened. I told him yes. 2 days later, he called me back. And what he told me shocked even me. The money wasn't just taken once. There were multiple withdrawals, all done by my parents. And every time, the reason written on the form was the same, family emergency. But there was no emergency. It was all for my cousin. That's when I realized something. My parents thought nobody would ever question it. They thought I would just accept it and move on. But they forgot one thing. My grandparents trusted me, and they made sure I had proof of that. I went back to the lawyer's office and asked him what my options were. He said since the account was part of my grandparents' estate, and it was used without permission, it could be challenged legally. I didn't want to sue my parents. I really didn't. But I also didn't want to pretend nothing happened. So I told the lawyer to contact them, not to fight, just to ask them to explain. A few days later, my parents called me. They sounded angry. They said I was embarrassing the family. They said I should have talked to them first, but I reminded them they never talked to me before giving away my inheritance. That's when the truth finally came out. They admitted they thought my grandparents wouldn't notice. They thought the will wouldn't matter. They thought I wouldn't care. They were wrong. A week later, the lawyer called again. My parents had agreed to return the money, not all at once, but they signed papers saying the debt now belonged to them, not me, which meant my cousin had to pay them back instead. And for the first time in my life, my parents were actually mad at him, not at me, at him. The whole family found out what happened. And after that, no one trusted my parents the same way again. So yeah, my parents gave my inheritance to my cousin and ended up owing the money themselves.